Okay. Okay, motion to open the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Stetser?
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, the meeting this evening is a workshop, a discussion on village code updates. This has been ongoing, and also a discussion of our budget. Does anybody have anything to disclose or any conflict?
I do not.
No.
I do not.
I do not. Okay, well, with that being said, would the clerk please read the open meeting compliance certification?
I'm just going to shorten it.
Yeah, Cliff's notes.
Cliff notes. If an attendee is participating via web conference technology such as Zoom, the clerk may announce how attendees should signal that they wish to comment. This may differ by platform, but is typically accomplished through the raise the hand feature. Yes, we are using raise the hand. If you're in the public, raise your hand. We'll try to get to you. And also, you put your questions through Q&A. We'll be happy to answer the questions to the board. If it's in chat, we do not review. Please give your name and address and organization. There shall be an exemption for any category of people protected by New York State law. I ask that even online, please give me your address and name. Real quick, speakers must observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. And that's the Cliff Note version.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so first up, we're going to review our village code updates, and I know we are, our attorney is probably on the way.
Can we do a quick few housekeeping
Oh, you
things?
had housekeeping, yes, let's do housekeeping, of course.
Okay, as the board's aware, we have the 2 new employees, and the HSA funding for the one was going to be approved on a monthly basis, and the other I need to have approved for the remainder of the portion for this year, or till June. So I'm asking for funding of $875 for, oh, just totally broken. Matt McIntyre. I knew McIntyre, lost the first name. And for Brandon Hopkins of $250.
Can you clarify the $8.75 or $875?
$875. $8.75 isn't going to get you much in that.
Just wanted to clarify.
But thank you for doing that.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Stetser.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
And the other is Mayor Plummer. We meant to get this approved, but she needs to attend the winter symposium for the Canal Society. It's $60, and I just need approval to send out a check.
So moved.
Second.
Oh,
Roll call?
Okay, Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Stetser.
aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Oh, I don't know if I should vote on that, it's for me. Do I abstain? It's something for me to do.
It's just your duties.
It is, okay.
So
All right, just want to check. Did you have a question?
Yeah, no, well, I was just gonna talk about the sidewalk with Scott Carter.
Okay, just one sec.
that's the last of my housekeeping.
That's the last of the housekeeping. Zach, yes.
Just because I have to leave.
Yeah.
You guys get to carry on. In regard to the sidewalk replacement, that is budgeted for this year on State Street from Shady Place to the Village Line. I would like to reach out to Scott Harder for his professional engineering services to provide some sort of property line delineation for us to be able to put the sidewalk in at 5 foot wide throughout. And after further inspection, it's going to be easier to go toward the private property side of the sidewalk to increase the width a foot, because going towards the road, the approach coming from the road up to the sidewalk is already steep. That would increase the angle going from the road to the sidewalk even more if we were to go out another foot. So if at all possible, I just wanted to talk to you guys about and give you an approval. His services are about $7,000 top, depending on how far we have to go with it. If that includes any kind of easements that we would have to reach out to private property owners for. This can be adjusted in what was budgeted, because we have budgeted for the contractor to come through per the Monroe County contract to replace the sidewalk in completeness from start to finish. And there are other ways that we could have the contractor come in and do the work and still provide some of those services ourselves, like the rebading of the driveways and the restoration of the lawns, which would offset the cost that Scott would have towards this project. So I think the $40,000 that was budgeted would still be in line with what the end result would be with Scott's.
Because DPW will be picking up some of the stuff on the, sort of on the backside of the
Yes.
project,
Yep.
in terms of
Labor-
restoration work.
Right, so
Okay.
the restoration work for the lawns and the asphalt driveways.
Okay,
And the labor is already included with the DPW, so it's just the materials, which is asphalt, minimal, and topsoil and grass, which is still.
Are you going to write this up for us, Zach, and submit it so that we have a written copy of what you're proposing?
Yes, I can do that, except for I can't provide exact numbers for
Okay.
what it would cost, because I got a ballpark high range of what it would be, and that's how I would have to.
Them doing versus us doing it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So we're still budgeted for the $40,000 regardless. It's just to hire him to do some of the site work.
Well, I think it's important, one, because of the topography that you've described, and also the fact that we're looking at other property lines in terms of making it a 5-foot sidewalk.
Yeah, we don't want to encroach on private property. But,
Right.
too much into it.
What are our options if property owners don't want to give us any bit of their property to make the sidewalk wider? Do we have to do kind of what the DOT did over there with the jog around? Or what are our options? Because if it gets too too big of a process, it could cost us a lot for legal fees, right?
Yeah, and so that was the high range of that.
Okay.
If the best case scenario is we could make it 5 foot wide with an existing highway boundary as it is without encroaching on the private property.
Okay, so that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, and there are only 3 or 4 of those properties out through there where the driveway is steep enough that it would be necessary to go in the private property direction.
Okay.
The rest of them, we could shift it so it would drift back out towards the road and stay within that, the right of way. So that wouldn't be an issue.
And anytime we redo a sidewalk, we have to do it to its, ideally, we want them to be to code, but there is no other option, right? When we do redo a sidewalk, we can't put it back, even if it was initially narrower than
So
the standard.
4 feet wide is how sections of it currently exists, and that is within code. The only benefit to going to a 5 foot wide sidewalk is to allow our equipment to get down through there for winter maintenance. Plowing the sidewalks, we end up trailing off the sidewalk very easily, damages private property, our property, and then we have to go back and restore it.
Well, it's safer overall,
It
too,
is safer.
even for pedestrians.
It's in our active transportation.
Yeah, it's in
plan
our-
to widen it, too.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that in the ATP.
They can find that out. Right?
Yeah.
Has 5 feet been our standard that we've been trying to
Yes.
maintain?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For consistency too, also throughout the village.
Yeah, consistency, accessibility,
Mhm.
lots of good reasons for it, honestly.
Because we allow bike traffic on the sidewalks too, so.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. Until
Everybody
we fix our speeding car problem, people are still going to have to ride on the
Yeah.
sidewalk sometime. Yeah, so
Yeah,
wider is
really
better.
Push them off of it.
So essentially, it would be kind of a wash,
Yeah.
roughly?
Yep.
Okay, because you're picking up the restoration on the back end of the project as opposed to the contractor,
Yes.
just so we're all understanding that. And there's some
Public comment.
public comment? Sure.
Art Pierce, 70 State Street. Will Village first establish the right-of-way line and share with all State Street residents in advance of firming up sidewalk construction drawings?
If necessary, I'm not sure it will be yet.
Yeah, if it's going to impact it, we should definitely
Yeah.
share it with the residents, for
If we
sure.
would be pushing on the private property,
Yeah.
unless we'd be letting
Yeah, for
the
sure.
private property owners know about this. We wouldn't encroach and then ask for
Right.
Yes. So
I
the
certainly
answer-
don't see any harm in, once we have a plan, being able to share that on our village website, for instance, so everyone can look at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So what are you looking for tonight? What's our action item?
To bring Scott Harder in on this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that's step one, yeah.
Mhm.
Step one, yep.
Okay. And then he'll give the parameters, really, sort of take a look at where it's,
Yes,
Okay.
you'll start finding where those property lines are and the best
Okay.
approach for
So either way, we need Scott.
yeah, we need to have
them.
this
Not
done.
necessarily needed, because we could go toward the road side, but it's just
Oh.
going to make things a lot more difficult for people trying to get into their driveways at 3 or 4 of the roads.
You're saying because of the elevation from the road going up private residences' driveways is an issue, so to bring in our engineer, this would potentially benefit our residents in terms of better access, if he can come up with other parameters for it.
Yeah.
Right? That's I
Yes,
think,
if
where
we
it's
can
going.
push towards the house side. of the street
Yeah.
Rather than towards the street side.
So it's not
Sorry
a
if I
steep.
wasn't clear on that, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so it could benefit our residents to have our engineer take a look at that relative to the incline. Okay.
it's just on the one side, to be clear.
Yes, on the north side.
Mhm.
Right, so you go higher.
We're talking about the sidewalk on Shea to the village. Yeah, I would like our engineer to look at that, if it can, help our residents have a better access without bottoming out their cars,
Yeah,
So may we see, before approving, a scope of work from Scott, of what he anticipates doing, so that we know
sure. I could reach out to him.
what we're contracting for,
Okay.
what our expectation is? Okay.
All right.
Don't you think that would be good to have?
Sure,
maybe
sure,
it'd be-
I think, yeah, I think we have the price range and we know what he's going to do, but if you want to see something in writing, of course, but there's plenty of times when we've reached out to he's our village engineer, so,
Yeah.
you're thinking something, I can tell, what do you want to
Yeah.
add in?
See by your face.
Well, it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to define what his scope of the work is going to be at this point. It's mostly just to see, take consideration of where the property lines are and if we are going to encroach on that by moving the sidewalk over a foot in certain spots.
Well, then that's the scope of the work, you just defined it, that we want to widen the sidewalk. There's concern about the impact on the access to the driveways for the residents on that side of the road, and we would like our engineer not to exceed potentially $7,000 worth of work, to take a look already at existing property lines relative to widening the sidewalk and what the impact would be on those residences, am I correct?
Yes.
I think that's the scope of work.
And with the limit, we'll put a cost limit on it?
I think that's what I just
Yes,
mentioned,
that's
I just
7,000.
mentioned not to exceed 7,000.
Great, perfect.
Yeah.
I have to get some water, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you going to vote now?
Yeah, quick vote, can you hang in?
Mhm.
Okay, so, does anybody want a second? I guess I
I will
made a
second,
motion.
yeah.
Yeah.
She made the motion.
I think I
seconded.
did.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a second roll call, please, and then.
Trustee
Linda will-
Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Stetser.
Aye.
Trustee Keating.
Abstain.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
yeah,
I'll ask Scott to produce that as best as
yeah,
possible.
no, thank you, yeah, I think it's a good idea, it could help the residents.
Right.
Okay,
I still haven't heard from Jeff, so which way do you want to turn it?
well, why don't where are we with code right now? I know, we're trying to,
I
it's been a
highlighted
while,
in-
know?
I highlighted
Where we
for
left off.
Turner where we left off, the items that he
Okay.
thought that we still had left to discuss.
We can maybe at least start in on that. Okay, so let me find the sheets here. Okay, so we're looking at, everybody have the code sheets there, it's item 23. And this, yeah, you had mentioned this, the lot coverage for properties with churches, all are well over the allowed coverages in the village, and that every neighborhood that you have surveyed for lot coverages are over the 25%, requiring everyone to need a variance, okay, for any change proposed to the property.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
surveyed 3 different neighborhoods, and every one of them was over 28% covered. Minimum was
Yeah.
28, a couple were at 30.
right,
You know, I mean, so we're already, I mean, pretty much every neighborhood is over the value established in the code, which means if you want to do anything, you have to get a variance.
Yes.
so the code isn't reflecting the reality of, and I'll just say our mantra, we're pre-existing, non-conforming.
Well, and a lot of
So-
the postage stamps, let's be honest, these
Yeah.
are postage stamps. You know, I mean, they're not, you don't have, I mean, you go to 41 Monroe, yeah, they're not going to hit their lot coverage
Okay.
ever.
Mhm.
But, you know, you take your average neighborhood, Lincoln, Elmbrook, all those, they're all over already. So I don't know what the board would like to do, but, and the same thing, we just found this out, what happened with Thirsties wanting to do something.
Mhm.
I will never understand why when zoning changes, you looked at certain values or certain values looked at it and you didn't include the people that meet that need already. Like the lot coverages, Thirsties couldn't do anything to expand their business at all because they are over 60% in their zoning area. When if they were just including the TDD, they would be legal.
Oh, and they were left
Same
out.
thing to Bakery, same thing with Rachel's. They're all well over, and they're not part of the TDD, they're part of the VCB.
And they're all pre-existing, non-conforming.
So, and anything they want to do has to have a variance.
Right, so the action item would be, how do we address this in our
Look at
code?
any properties that are already over the value and include them in a district that allows that where they're sitting already. You know what I mean? So however they are already, so you could include the Bakery, Thirsties, Hungries, and anything right along State Street into the TDD, which would, because they're already 100% covered, basically. I mean, you might have, there's a tree at Thirsties, Canandaigua has a couple of tiny little spots, but they're all well over their lot coverage. As far as the church goes, I mean, they're 70% covered.
Oh, yeah, I know, what you mean,
St.
because
Louis.
St. Louis is, yeah, well,
Yeah.
so's Christchurch.
Yeah, every church.
Every church is, they're built out.
So, but they're all in residential districts, which are 25%.
Gotcha. So I don't know that we have any specific solutions now, but I think, we're not the only village that has this issue, I'm sure. There's got to be other.
Right. Could you exempt churches somehow as an entity from the restriction
We'll
on?
talk about it, but I remember a conversation that we had regarding, if you want to come in and sit, it's fine, regarding this very issue. And I remember the comp plan, it was, and then when it came to us, I think we discussed and said, I think it's a good idea to have them come in for variance because of the parking issues that have been experienced in the past, so that it can be evaluated each time. I think that was why they didn't want to remove it, but I want to go back and look at the notes regarding it,
Yeah,
because
that would
it
be
was
helpful.
discussed
Okay, that
at
would be in the
length.
minutes then. Do we remember when it was?
I think Joanne was taking minutes at that time, if that helps at all. Joanne Shannon
Oh,
was
yeah.
filling in, and she
That would have been-
was taking.
That was with the
copious-
code update?
Yes, it was during code update.
So
The
2000.
resident-
And I think we had it done in
Mhm.
sections,
Mhm.
that we were trying to be very methodical about it. And I'd like to go back and I do not want to try to second guess the comp plan committee in any changes that we're contemplating here. But definitely, this needs more research, and I want to get much more information
Right,
before.
the residential one hasn't been changed through all your code cycles.
No,
It's
but the others-
25%.
The churches I remember specifically, because we went to court with St. Louis, so,
Right.
and they are, there's no room for them to expand at all, so.
Well, what about the residential? I mean, you can't do anything without getting a variance. That
Yes,
to
I
me
understand.
seems, I mean, you're forcing everybody to get a variance to put in a shed or a doghouse. You know what I mean? It's
Well, what it says is that the code isn't reflecting
the
a
reality.
significant portion of the reality of what for residences, if I'm understanding this. Yeah, Justin?
I don't know, maybe that's true, maybe it's not. I would like to see the data, I guess, Steve. So it sounds like we've got two separate issues. We've got churches and we've got residences. If you studied this with a spreadsheet, I'd like to see the spreadsheet so I have a better understanding of the data. And I guess that would kind of be my next ask on this one to.
Yes, I think as part of the research, we can start gathering this information and really seeing what the overall impact really would be,
And there are definitely two very separate things. I would break this out into two items, churches versus residential properties. I know that I was just looking for things like lot coverage in the comp plan. Of course, it doesn't say coverage anywhere in the document. It does talk about green space in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
So I think that it's an important question to first understand where we are right now, and then to secondly, see how that balances with desires for green space, permeability, permeable surfaces, all that kind of stuff.
And then what about, so we've talked about residences and churches. What about commercial properties? Should we look, break that out as another category? I think we should.
Yeah, sure.
Just to.
Yeah, I can do it.
Look at the whole village.
Like a spreadsheet of the differences, like the ones I'm talking about that would be beneficial to put in the TDD versus just VCB. And then the residential neighborhoods I've done studies on, I'll give you that, based on blocks. That's what I did. I took like Elmbrook and I did that whole row of all the houses, took the average of their lot coverages and compiled into one average. So I'll get that together and send it to the board.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. And then also, I like the idea of going back and looking at that discussion.
Yes.
So maybe this is information gathering at this point, because it's kind of a ball of yarn, I think, with this, So let's say that's where we're going. Okay. So then we have item 24. And, Steve, yeah, you had been talking about this as well. This is the former dentist's office?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Rosen's office.
Didn't that sell?
Pardon?
I think it's sold.
I think it's sold,
It
right?
didn't say sell, but it's taken a year and a half to sell it, basically, because
Okay, well, it's sold. I think it kind of makes us move.
probably 75% of well, yes and no, it was a business that existed there forever, and then the zoning change made him illegal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I guess I'm not understanding how when something's already existing and you change zoning, how you take them out. You know what I mean? Or leave them out if they're already existing and they're gainfully a member of the community.
Yeah, again, this was discussed in the comp plan when they were envisioning each district and giving it a title and a purpose. And I understand why the Main Street zoning was kept all of the piece according to their vision going forward. So on that one, and again, with the request to remove salon facilities from special use permits, I remember that one as well, and that was a discussion that the board had during the code revisions, and there was a reason for that as well.
Why don't we go back and see what the discussion in the minutes? So we understand, so we understand and we can bring that
There was a
forward.
reason for it.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Okay.
on a whim, somebody just left it out. I mean, it was definitely a
so
discussion.
that'll be an action item.
And I do remember from the survey, the citizen survey that we were using as part of the information on the basis for making decisions, that the prevalence of salons was a concern to residents.
Mhm.
And they wanted some sort of a guidelines or something so that the whole Main Street didn't turn into salons. I do remember that discussion.
I remember this discussion, and then we also said, we wouldn't want something to remain empty if we had an opportunity to fill it, and, limiting any one type of business is a tricky thing to do. The market should decide that, and that was specifically with the salons, not to pick on salons, but we do have a lot, and that was a concern in the survey, and we did talk about it.
And none have been denied.
So, right, so what I'm most interested in, and we looking back at the notes, is like, what is the advantage to having us look at it if we're saying, if they meet all the normal conditions, and we're saying we're not limiting salons coming in, what is the advantage to having it come before, or needing a special permit? So that's what we want to look back and see, because we don't do that with other things. If it's, I mean, yes, we do it with some things, but salons is our most popular thing that turns over. It would simplify things to not have, it's a pretty straightforward thing when they come to us. I haven't heard anything controversial, and we've heard a ton of these through the years since I've been on the board.
I
So,
mean, it's up to the board. I think making somebody wants to start business, come in and spend 30 days and a time and everything to do it is counter business friendly.
So,
I don't know.
oh, go ahead, no, go ahead.
I haven't, I don't see it in that light. I think, I go back again to conversations that we had with a business owner who came and spoke to the board and said he didn't view the village that way at all when he opens businesses all over the city of Rochester and statewide. And he said, no, I think you carefully consider it, and I think you're highly respected, and it's not viewed as an impediment at all. It's part of doing business, and he expected it, and he respected it, and he didn't think anybody was being difficult, and,
Well, I think there's a number of different opinions, you know.
yeah.
I do, Justin.
So, Steve, I appreciate especially your looking at the lot coverage and that kind of thing, and seeing how the code aligns with the actual data on the ground. I think that's a really important thing. To me, 24 and 26 are more in the domain of legislative changes this board has discussed. And so I would ask that before we go off and do a lot more research on this, I would like to know, is the board really in support of advancing this discussion at this juncture? And so, or do we just table it? So are we specifically with number 24, the building is sold? I don't think there's an application in front of us to change the zoning from the owner of the property. Does the board want to carry forward with the discussion on 24 right now?
I don't know if it's the highest priority because the building's sold. I mean, you know, we have plenty of other things to tackle. But I would like to understand item number 26, the requiring of a special use permit every time a salon comes in, because I think Renee, you raised, you know, some good points, that there's been a lot of salons, there's never been an issue. You know, maybe we need to revisit that, but I think the action items for number 26 would be to review the survey of the residents and what those concerns were. And the other action item would also be to review the specific minutes from the meeting when it was decided, so we can see the reasons why, because we may be missing something that was part of a discussion. You know, we're sort of years later. And, you know, so I'm in agreement on 24. I mean, the building's sold, probably not the highest priority.
Right.
Can you revisit that?
Probably.
Probably.
They're going to do something else with it, so it's, that I know of.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so table 24 and talk about 26 based on research.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So table 24 and then talk about 26 based on
Yeah, let's
research.
just do a little more digging.
So we're crossing off the list here.
So one of the reasons that 26 had stayed on there and we wanted to review it from our prior discussion was environmental reasons. Yeah, so it was that salons can sometimes produce materials that aren't.
Fumes and other things,
And so that was the reason that we wanted to check it. But everything else that was said, I'm in agreement with, you know, especially your point on, and we went over and over this, that we can't really limit if somebody wants to open a business that is allowed. And
Yeah, it wouldn't stand any
Yeah,
legal challenge at all.
it just seems.
Yeah,
we did have a lengthy discussion, so it's worth.
Yes.
I think it's worth looking at,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, so that's, we're good on that? Everybody on the same page? And thanks for bringing that up about the environmental concerns
Yeah,
too.
I
So we can,
recall that, that's correct.
yeah. Okay, so item 28. What is, I see, I don't have that code in front of me. I didn't bring my, do we know what this is for item 28? Do you have the code? Oh,
I
good.
need the code for that.
Yeah, Steve's looking it
That
up
sounds
right.
like a comp plan review sort of. issue.
Oh, was this screening? 34.2. Yeah, siting, erecting, reconfiguring, or removing mechanical equipment such as generators or HVAC systems requiring minor site plan review.
Right, so do you really, I mean, if somebody wants to put in a generator, they need a site plan review?
I know they've gone before HPV.
Yes, HPV, but they need site plan review. That, this is requiring site plan review. It should be, to me, this is, should be commercial, not residential. So the only thing I wanted to add
Oh, I see.
is the requirement is for a non-residential district.
Okay.
Do you really think that somebody putting in a generator or a heat pump needs to come before planning
Okay, you're saying for a residence,
for residential?
residential only?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, no, I want to remove, it would make more sense, because most of these things are labeled towards non-residential districts. Number 9 is not. Number 9 is generic.
What's number 9? So you don't have, I don't have it in front of me.
Reconfiguring, removing mechanical equipment such as generators or HVAC.
Okay, so specifically, okay. Yeah, Justin.
I think this one has tie-ins with the requirements for things like screening, right? So if.
But that would be HPV.
Yeah, HPV
requires screening, not planning and zoning. I just don't, to make somebody come in for a site plan review, 60 days of time and pay a large fee to put in a generator, that to me is, it's just, I don't see the need for it. I don't see why you would make or force a resident to put in a generator to come into planning and zoning. Yes, HPV to make sure it's screened. Planning and zoning gets site plan review for a generator or a heat pump.
Yeah, or a
I think
brand new
it's-
air conditioner where there wasn't one, yeah.
I think it's worth talking about. I would like to just make sure that this, if we're not going to require any site plan, I want to make sure that the rest of the code adequately spells out things like
Right.
where it should be,
The location.
how many there can be.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, we don't want somebody installing like a huge shed-sized diesel backup generator
Well, they're
somewhere.
not going to, and there are generators have
Big
their
truck
own
backup.
regulations on where they can be installed, where proximity to, the building, to the lot lines, things like that. There already are many regulations in regards to them.
but you're right to ask that, because we need to make sure it is addressed
Yeah.
properly in other parts of the
Those are
code.
other than a code, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, yeah,
Well, there's building code for that kind of thing to avoid fumes to the house, I imagine, but I also want to make sure that our own code is particular enough in this regard. So it's not just an isolated section. I think that I'd like to take a closer look at this, and I just started looking at this a few hours before the meeting. I'd like to better understand this in context of other parts of the code relating to generators, HVAC, that kind of thing.
so let's make that an action item then, that the action item at this point is to research how the protection in other parts of the code to make sure there's proper citing.
In addition to that, I think that it would also, I would like to hear what the planning board says about this.
Sure.
So I would ask for an informal referral to the planning board to see what they think about removing this from minor site plan.
They already,
I can't remember if we went
they already gave input.
Yeah, was that one of their items?
No, they weren't
Okay.
concerned.
They weren't
with it.
concerned about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I already have the sheet from them, actually. Yeah, we went through that.
Yeah, but you look at the HPV code, but any physical change, any visible physical change noticeable from a public way has to go through the HPV for review. I
It
mean,
should.
it's in our code.
Yep.
So,
And they're looking at size, to Justin's point about putting in, like if someone wanted to put in some monster something or other, is HPV looking at size? Is that what your main concern is? Somebody would
That
put
could be, yeah, it's kind of
something-
the edge cases where if somebody really does go,
Whole hog.
yeah, whole hog on this, and they get talked into the, $100,000 diesel backup generator.
which, nobody's gonna do. Most people are gonna put in a generator or they're gonna put in a heat pump.
Most people are. And
But there's always the one, right?
too.
Yeah, there's the one. Well, I mean, I do think that we should research that, and also, let's take a look at, in addition, the HPV code requiring the screening to see if there's any other restrictions or limitations, how that would be addressed. So it's not just looking, PZBA or building code, but also HPV. I think we should do like sort of a full fully rounded look at how this could be addressed in our code already. Does that make sense? You know, just,
Yeah, I think the
Poke and
code,
prod.
the code is not for the standard cases where everything goes our way. The code is for when some guy finds a good deal on a huge generator on eBay and decides that it would be great and fell off.
good point. Okay, so
We have
yes.
a public
Okay.
comment.
Mhm.
Our Pierce, 70 State Street. There are generators for residential properties. Why not require them under site plan review? Are there not yard setback issues? Why have site plan review for a shed, et cetera, but not ground-located generators? Also screening considerations, and he agrees with both Justin and the mayor's comments.
Okay, thanks, Art. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all going in the same direction. We're going to, take a look at all the other components that will properly address this in other areas of the code. Okay, is that it? Just these yellow highlighted?
That's the one
Items, yeah.
term indicated
Yeah.
that we needed that were left out. I think
Yeah.
we reviewed all the others.
We reviewed 29, 30 already.
Let me see.
No,
We did not,
well,
wait a minute, let me just see.
Kind of thought we did. And then maybe
Hang on, I don't know if I have the other old sheet.
on 30, is that the one that we already adopted the code for, or is this one different?
We didn't change it yet, but I think we agreed that we were going to change it to 7
we
instead of 6.
We did.
We did,
We
We
did.
did, we
Very
changed it,
adopted
that's
that book law.
adopted.
that's
Oh,
the crash, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can
Unless
alert
this is the
all,
section.
we can alert
I thought
the,
we did number 29 too.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we were modifying it, but it was waiting till we did other things. We did urgent things first.
Right, we did the LWRP
LWRP.
yeah, that's right.
We
Yep.
did the
trash, I mean, the shut hours.
the hours and the noticing a public hearing.
Yep,
Or you changed it from 10 to 5 days.
Yeah, we did all that.
that's done.
Yeah. So I think we did address all these.
Yep. I
So
think
we already have agreement on 29, we just haven't,
Yeah, I think we haven't developed the local law. I think Jeff was
So
holding
Jeff's
those.
going
okay.
to be doing
So
that,
we had a
so,
bunch of them.
okay, so the action item is Jeff, and then he's going to consolidate it and do it all at once.
Yep, and I know he had other items to talk to the board about, but he's not here.
Stuck in.
Well, we have a hard stop at 5:30, so we could switch over.
Yeah.
At this point and go, to the budget.
Now, did everybody get a copy of the Justin proposed
Yeah,
code changes?
yeah,
I think so, somewhere.
yeah, the board received copies on November 12th.
Okay.
Mhm.
Does everybody have copies, so that's something that for the next time, maybe go through his list and pare it down and see if there's anything in there that you guys.
Some of it's
want.
duplicates too, so,
You're talking about Bellistra, not like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
from PZBA,
Yeah,
because this was
gotcha.
done.
Okay, yes,
from
I did get that one. I
PZBA.
thought there was
Yeah.
something I missed.
And if you can't find it, we can just send it out again to you guys.
Yeah, Steve, do you want to, or would somebody like to take on merging those, the ones that we've already done with Justin, please just changes, and then re-forward to the board, so we know what's.
Yeah, so there's not duplicates.
Yeah, if you people want to send me stuff, I'll pare it down to a smaller list.
Well, we're going to take the list that we have now that we already worked on, and then I'll sit down with you, I know where you're going, and we'll go through Justin's, because some of them overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll just give it, we'll do like a revised, sort of cleaned up list of, okay, this is sort of the last round of kind of where we are, or the next round.
I mean, just
Depending.
kind of a side note, in talking to Justin, he was the one who suggested to me about looking at the zoning and businesses and establishments in the village that are pre-existing non-conforming and changing the zoning ordinance to bring people into compliance. There's things you can't, you just can't change physical character or coverage of an existing building to meet the code, but you can change the code to meet the reality of what is.
Right,
So he's the one who suggested looking at like TBD and expanding it into covering some of the businesses that are well over the percentage.
and that may very well be the way to go, so, we can continue with this, for sure. Okay, so let's switch over now, we're going to switch over to,
Thank you.
thank you so much, Steve, for your work on this, appreciate it.
So I would normally say we start at general, but general had a lot of impacts from sewer, or sewer had impacts from general, and the impacts back to general made me change everything. So,
But I want to just give a framework for this, because what we're really transitioning towards is a holistic budget where sewer sort of, standing on its own
Right.
instead of pulling from general. So
Correct.
we're starting to see,
correct.
different, what's the word, different breakdowns, I think, in the budget.
When
breakdowns.
I pulled the numbers from general over to the sewer, to accommodate what sewer should have been covering, we would have to increase the overall sewer rate over 100%. And I knew there was no way that was going to fly. So I went back, took a harder look, looked at the percentages and what we're basing the percentage of shared cost sharing with sewer, and we brought that down a few percentage points, which changed some things. And then I took a harder look at what I was sharing with general and said, maybe not with sewer, maybe not, or maybe not right now. I can justify not. So I trimmed, and then to Zach's disappointment, I cut the F-150 Lightning. There's reality with everything, something had to go. So with doing all that and really taking a hard look, the first round, there's still an offset. It's an increased sewer increase of 15%, and I still would have to take from fund balance. Now, I will point out that sewer still has a very healthy fund balance. We have a 10 to 15% requirement of the budget for sewer, which is around 60 to 70,000 in fund balance. So it's teetering around 700,000. So it's very healthy and could afford to take from fund balance. And I will say, as we did last year, we anticipated taking a large chunk out of fund balance, about 100,000. We're not taking it. Actually, according to Zach, we're not going to end up needing the 100, whatever we budgeted at that point for the lining. So it's an option to take from a fund balance, and it probably wouldn't hurt to do that.
Okay, did you just understand that about the lining on Sutherland? Okay, just so everybody's, understanding that.
Zach went through, they did the clean out. It was a lot of root control. It was in better shape than anybody thought.
So we may not need to use the money
We may
set
not.
aside to do that full lining on
So
Sutherland.
that's not going to be spent out of the fund balance.
Right.
So it's a little early days from what Zach is telling me. Everything looks fine and won't be used. I want to make sure we get to the end of the year. Even if we got to the end of the year, we probably still are okay to steal a little bit from fund balance this year, if the board decides to go that way. I'm at a point with the sewer budget, I can't make any further decisions. My brain will not work any harder on these numbers.
You've been chipping away.
I've been chipping away, trying to find percentages here and there. It's very hard with sewer because really it's limited to a couple revenue sources.
So
Sewer rents and interest on its savings. So I can't pull from anywhere else. I can't,
So I just need to continue to talk through this. So traditionally, in previous years, we have taken from fund balance because the sewer hasn't stood on its own in terms of the allotments.
Correct, as we
The
had
allocations,
our
I should
accountant
say.
come in and explain to
Okay.
you, sewer needs to be a standalone entity. It should
Mhm.
support all its services. Sewer has not done that. It hasn't, let's put it basic, it hasn't even paid for insurance. So
Right.
we've had huge insurance claims. Sewer hasn't paid for insurance. It's lucky general pays for insurance and ends up covering it, but it shouldn't do that. It should be paying for insurance. It should be
The
paying for
proper
its own.
allocations should be
Right. It should be
reflected.
paying for its own postage. It should be paying for
Okay,
computers. If it had its own office, think what it needs to run.
right, okay.
It should-
It's
Should
like its own
support
profit
that.
center kind of thing.
And as the accountant said, and this is how you set the rates for sewer, it needs to have the money, it needs to be able to bring in enough to cover the service.
Mhm.
Right now, to do that, this is what I'm seeing we need to do. But the proper way is let the expenses set your sewer rate.
Right, so traditionally, it has been a 10% increase. And
Each
so-
year.
Each
Each
year,
year.
okay, so, to keep up with what's
Right.
required. And now you're saying, based on what you've just run, it would be 5% over that.
I'm trying to make
Potentially.
it reasonable this year and
Okay.
looking at it
We're
because
just
we are
trying to understand.
establishing a new accountability in the sewer fund.
Mhm.
and not saying it wasn't accountable, but I'm just saying as we transition to the proper method for the sewer account, I don't want to hit residents with a 100% tax increase, or sewer increase. That's ridiculous.
Mhm.
So looking at it, I said, okay, 5% more isn't too bad. If we steal from fund balance, which is already healthy, it help offset that for a year. Next year, obviously, we'll have to look again.
Okay.
It's
Do we have an idea of what's the average sewer bill? And so if we're talking about a 15% increase, what that would look like?
On a resident, I would say the average sewer bill is between $32 and $175. I know that's a wide range,
Yeah.
but
Just depends.
honestly, depending on the usage, it's truly,
Yeah, so we can take the average and then
yeah,
net it
most of them are
out.
somewhere in between there. For
Okay.
commercial, it's a little bit higher, but most of our residents are
Yeah.
paying somewhere on a low end of 32
Okay.
and a high of about 175.
If-
For, I'm sorry, so for a year would be double, so.
Yeah, double it.
60.
Thank you.
I brought an adding machine tonight.
Yeah,
I was gonna
very
make-
I like the
impressive.
sound.
Old school.
I know, I was gonna do it, I'm like.
You'll never
I know.
take my adding
That
machine.
sounds way
from me.
better.
$52.50 on a high end
That's
For
on
the
the,
year.
for the year.
on the high end.
On the
not-
high end.
And not the average.
No, not the average.
No.
So
What is that?
that's on $350 a year for your sewer.
Okay,
The
so-
high end is
High
what
end.
Brooklyn said, the highest.
It goes from 32 to 175, and there's,
Okay,
so if, let's do 150 a year,
Yeah, just so we see a
we'll
little.
go to the middle. 2250
Okay,
For the
for
year.
years, what
for the year.
Yeah.
would be the year increase,
Okay,
additional.
all right. Okay,
It's-
so,
It's not terrible. We used the increases in the past years to help establish the catastrophe fund,
Mhm,
the reserve.
mhm.
And honestly, we are sitting very good with fund balance. That is a decision by the board.
Okay, so let's talk about fund balance now. So it's roughly around 700,000, roughly.
Yes,
I mean,
and
you
I
know,
ran
I know, I remember.
from December. I was hoping to have January numbers. Me and the computer were having a fight, and it won. What it's saying right now, available fund balance 757 as of December.
Okay, so
So
let's say 700 just for the sake of argument.
it's,
Okay, so
it's very healthy.
the contingency policy would be between 10 to 15% of that? Okay, so.
10 to 15%, so of your budget, okay?
Right.
So you're looking at 60 to 70,000. So this is where we got in trouble with the comptrollers before,
Right.
because we have such a healthy fund balance in sewer. That's one of the reasons why we established the one reserve. I'm
Sure.
not saying we should look at, not, as we're looking at the new reserves, we
Mhm.
need to push some of that fund balance into reserves, absolutely. And
But we're
do
not
I
at the end
think
of the year yet.
15% is enough of fund balance? No, I'm not happy with
Yeah.
that percentage. I think 20,
20,
25%
okay, so
would be better.
factoring in like 20%,
We're still
we're still,
well over.
so if we do capture some funds from the general fund, we are well within and can exceed the originally designated parameters.
Yes, we
Okay.
could take from the sewer fund balance and not hurt it at all.
Okay, in the general fund.
But let's go over
Okay.
the items in the sewer budget.
If there's any year that is a good reason to do it, it's this year.
Well, yeah,
Because
because,
we're realigning how this should have. worked out.
absolutely, the expenses in sewer are now actually getting closer. I would say
Mhm.
we're almost there. I mean, it's minor things that I really looked, at hard. That sewer now is being accountable for their share.
Yeah.
It's reducing the burden on general, to be honest. So the pink, in case nobody figured it out, the pink is new lines in the sewer.
Boy, you guys have been working away. I mean,
And
so much
sewer
here.
is very pink. I like to call it Pepto-Bismol pink.
Pepto-Bismol.
So we have several different lines that are showing up in the administration.
What, okay, oh, they're not numbered, are they? All right, so,
And I have two lines.
Go 5110, is that what we're doing?
yeah, oh,
Okay, that's the first one, right?
Yeah, so you're on, at the bottom of that page, 5110, is that where you're looking?
Hold on.
Okay, I'm waiting.
Somehow in the store, our copier likes to throw everything in the garbage with the big paper, so I have to. All right, so we'll start up on top. We have the 1010. This is the breakdown of the mayor and the trustees for sewer. This line we established last year.
Yep.
So we go on to stormwater, that's an existing. One thing I moved over here is law, because sewer does have a responsibility with
Page
the.
13, Lily. Page 13 for Liz.
Oh, on your, well, you're in the
Oh,
general
you're in
budget.
general, you were,
Keep
I
moving.
just noticed, keep going, sewer's on the bottom.
Another one?
Sewer's on the
Yeah,
bottom.
that's
I
fine,
flipped
sewer.
the order, I'm
Hang on, no,
sorry.
that's okay, you got it. Here we go. Yep, here's sewer,
Because the sewer's
Okay,
impact
yeah.
in general, I really wanted to start there.
yeah.
All
So
right,
we just, so you're talking about law, because obviously there's some,
yep, and there's general labor. Again, it all impacts, it's back and forth.
okay.
Can you hold a minute? I want to sign in and then share my screen so the recording and whoever is following can see what we're looking at.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea, thanks.
So
But-
just give me a second. you
I
guys.
just want the public to understand what you're sharing is very draft, it's very
Yeah, yeah.
tentative. This is my thoughts, it's not necessarily the board's thoughts. I don't want anybody running around saying, the board's going to do this,
Yeah,
because this
it's
is
a
just
workshop.
the clerk's.
So can you promote me so that I can share my screen? Join as a panelist, thank you. And now I will share my screen.
Yeah, I just, this is my thoughts.
Sure.
I don't want
So
you
we're-
to-
You're the
we're on
treasurer,
the
so,
Sewer
you know.
appropriations, and we're looking at the pink lines.
The pink lines, the brand new pink lines.
Got it.
Okay, so laws and
Thank
the
you.
new lines there.
Can I just, is there kind of an overriding principle for these new lines about how much of general purpose expenses should be allocated to the sewer fund? So that I can understand, like,
Covered the earlier meetings, was it 10%, 20%?
No, it's, right, it was going to be, the initial number was 25% of sewer should be responsible for. I've trimmed that down to 22%. I took a even harder
so for
line.
all of these, is it fair to say that for all of these pink lines, that represents 22% or something? of
Unless
the
it was
overall?
dictated different by salary for like
I
the
see.
board of trustees, it was decided for the trustees, it was 10% and the
Right.
mayor was 25%. Those are the only places I changed it. Overall, with any general expenses, as our accountant agreed, the average of the salaries is what we're using
Mhm.
as the establishing number for sewer's responsibility.
Okay, it would be really helpful if in a subsequent spreadsheet, there's like some kind of a comment or something that this is the factor that we're applying to say this is the.
No, I had gone over this earlier, so.
Yeah, it's been in a bunch of the versions.
Well, we can put it back, why don't we put it back?
Right, and actually in the
Okay.
general, I do reflect the
Yeah.
sewer percentage.
That's true, on the
Budget.
general paper you do, yeah.
But that's fine, I can put in the
Thank you.
factor.
Yeah, I didn't see the factor.
I'll just write at the top here, generally 22%.
Yeah, it's
So we can-
generally
okay.
22%. I think the only one that really shows a difference is the trustees because it's 10% of the salaries.
Right, okay.
Okay,
Trustees, 10%.
So we added the law. Engineering was already established. Buildings, this is new because it does operations out of Village Hall, so it shares a responsibility with the improvements. It shares responsibility in utilities, telephone, and heating fuel. Maintenance, let's go down to maintenance and transportation. If I'm going too fast, please let me know. I tend to zip through these things. Administration, this is a new line that is really where I'm establishing like Zach,
Mhm,
okay?
Yeah.
The roads personnel, I have it all under one line right now, like I do in general, just so it's easier to see. Vehicles, right now, I was creating the line, this was in the hopes of sharing the F-150, and then I took it away. Okay. New equipment, again, this would be a line where if it was a shared responsibility for something first that would be used for general and sewer would be charged off into that line. The flush truck, that is always been in this line, so I kept the funding at the same level because we seem to be maintaining with a 4,000 expense this year so far.
mhm.
Sewer administration, this tends to be the office staff, So we're seeing the staff salaries, and again, yeah, that's full staff salaries plus Steve. Contractual was broken out. What we are trying to do is get rid of a lot of these contractual and lumping a lot of things in. That's been the overall goal with the budget, to try to give more clarity. So again, we have equipment, we have the cost of copies, we have insurance. This is a big one. This is their percentage. Software support, CPA support, again, it's the same thing. We have to use our accountants for our sewer fund as well as the general. Payroll services, again, pay the salaries, sewer would have to pay that portion.
So you're really reflecting this as though it's its own office for the sewer administration?
Correct.
Okay.
This is, going to postage is the only one I'm not using a percentage. What I actually did on this is had Brooklyn look at what we're paying for postage for those sewer mailings, and then add a little more because we do send out, late notices and other things. So that is established, really looking at what we're doing, which was being covered by general in the past. So now we'll move to the garage. Again, the utilities, fuel, gasoline, and the maintenance. There's new furnaces needed in the garage, so again, reflects to the building. Chips. This is the portion of the CHIPS funds that sewer would kick in, not CHIPS funds, but towards the chip purchase for the equipment. And it's a vehicle which could end up being used for sewer. So it has to share. Sanitary sewer. This is contractual. Actually, I don't know why I pinked this. This shouldn't be pink. This is pre-existing.
Okay, contractual's pre-existing?
The whole
This
section.
whole section is, yeah.
Yeah, I got happy with the pink.
Yeah, you were on a roll. Okay. So
I
this
did
is
change.
already existing, okay.
I dropped the CIPP sewer lining from 140,000 to 20,000 because we wanted to go into a maintenance standard from that point. If we needed some lining, we had the funds available. And this is some utilities. This has to do with, I wish Zach was here, but I think it's the, it's
I'm trying to figure this out.
generator. It's the generator over in.
Oh, in Wood Creek. The Wood Creek generator. The Wood Creek generator.
Wow,
Wow. It took 3 people to get there.
At least they got generator out of there. Employee benefits, again, I don't know why I highlighted it. We've been doing this already for years. Last couple of years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I got
8120 is not pink and 9,000 is not.
yeah, the next version I'll unpink them. Actually, I can leave them pink the whole time. Doesn't matter. So that's pretty much the,
No, I do like leaving the ones that are pink, because then it's really easy to see what
we added.
didn't used to pay for.
Right, and now we should.
What didn't used to be self-funded for the sewer.
Yeah, it really is a overall view when you see what should have been, or should have been pushed over to sewer for their own allocation.
And I like the lines, I think it's a lot clearer for,
Yeah,
for me
I'm trying to
anyway,
agree.
it really helps me.
Do you want a total of what that number is?
Of the new lines?
Yeah.
Sure.
You're going to subtract those ones you accidentally.
Yeah.
So is it over here, the very last one?
That's the
rounded up to
total.
400,000.
That's the
total
total
that we're
budget with
appropriating.
the new stuff in it, yeah,
Okay.
It's about 173,000.
yeah.
That used to be paid for by our.
General fund.
But Jeff came out of
That's
general.
great.
Yeah,
It's really a great start. Thank you.
It's hard. It's a hard issue when you're looking at an account that wasn't actually being self-funding, because it helps general, but it's really hurting sewer. But if you think of it this way, general's been actually helping sewer out for a very long time at the cost of the residents, which it shouldn't have been.
Going forward, now this works this year, how will it work next year?
Well,
Now,
next
you
year,
can't take it $400,000 obviously out of there every single year.
no, the
So-
budget would be this every year.
It would not be that every year.
No, it would be.
That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So
Your rates need to accommodate your expenses for this fund.
now we have to put this back.
So this is now going to be like this forever, okay? This isn't going away. Sewer's going to have to pay these things from this point on.
Because what we're really seeing, and I think what's been helpful, at least for me, especially when it's highlighted, is we are now seeing like the whole reflection of sewer and what is required to run sewer and what is actually required, regardless of general fund. This is
Correct.
what sewer needs.
Correct.
It's just never
It
been
has to be
broken out this way.
self-sufficient.
Yeah,
Self-supporting, okay.
yeah.
It needs this. This is, if you were to open a sewer department, its own building, it couldn't function without these things. That's the only way I can describe it to you. It's just been very lucky, it's been benefiting off general. And not to sound terrible, but actually sewer has not even been spending its budget, and it's been reaping more
Benefits
fund
from-
balance
yeah.
at the expense of general, if you think of it that way. It's hurt general because it's not paying its share.
And so this is really what you've been working on with the accountant to
Correct.
sort of, realign things. So now going forward, we'll always have this and we will
Correct.
see what's required for sewer,
Correct.
to stand alone essentially.
Yes, this was reaffirmed by the comptrollers, this was
Mhm.
reaffirmed by our accountant. This is reality. If you're going to run a sewer department, this is what it takes.
And it's
I mean,
best
this is-
practices to see it reflected this way,
Right,
I think, for us, so we really understand what's required.
correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's great, I think it's helpful. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's a
This isn't
really
going
weird
away.
analogy, but it's almost like it was feeding off of
General.
Yeah.
general.
Yeah,
Like you have twins and one's getting all fat and sassy and the other one's not getting.
Yeah, it really,
I don't
it's,
know. That's
sewer
a
was a
weird
bad
analogy.
relative. Sewer was always borrowing,
It was just.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
sassy
sewer
one.
was doing great, and we were able to keep establishing and getting more fund balance in there, but it wasn't paying its share. It really
Yeah,
was taking
yeah.
advantage. I mean, it wasn't, I don't think there was any intention in that.
Right.
It just, this is how it was developed.
Mhm.
And when I looked at it, and maybe because I come from a different background in looking at this, when I was doing it at Webster, I knew we always shared the expenses for certain things, and we just didn't do it, or I thought it was happening. But when I really took a hard look, and this is something I brought up to the board last year because it did concern me, but I knew the board was hesitant last year, so we let it go. But this
It was
year,
new and I never, never thought of it in that way, of being a parasite to the village general fund, but
it really,
that's what was happening.
It
And here was
truly
the
is.
sewer fund getting larger and larger and larger all the time with no specific accounts earmarked for its use.
correct.
Yeah,
And
that's a
so it
good
was
way to
just-
put it.
Right.
No, it's a good way to put
Getting
it.
bigger and bigger, okay.
Yeah,
So that's where we're at. The revenues, as I said, right now, we go back to it, I anticipated a 15% increase, looking to take some from fund balance to help offset this year.
Mhm.
Next year, we'll have to take a look again, but hopefully we can level out as the years go on and the increases aren't too substantial. It's a very difficult time, and I said this to the mayor today, looking at all these numbers, to come up with good numbers because of the inflation, what's happening. I realize things are starting to drop. I got eggs, 24 count, $4.99. I was very happy. I did a dance. But
oh, here comes Jeff, just so you know.
it is hard to quantify what it's going to look like next year. Is this a good start for next year? I think it is. But will there be a little more work? Yes. Should we look at overall rates and things that other communities are charging?
Yeah, we'll
How-
reassess
How we
midway,
charge?
yeah.
Is this a time that maybe we take a good look and maybe, go step away from how we do the billing and go to putting it on the tax bill? That's a bigger picture question for the board. But at this time, with the parameters that I've been given and the numbers that I have, let me tell you, painstakingly gone through 5 times,
Yeah,
this is the best I feel we can do with sewer. or it's my recommendation to the board. At the end of the day, you can decide to increase the sewer rate more or take more from fund balance, whatever you decide. I need instructions. I kind of gave you the best of both
Okay.
worlds.
Do you have a feel right now for what we might be looking at as a possible tax hike, on general tax hike?
Well, after last meeting and adding in the few items that I was told to add, I think we're around 9%.
So we would theoretically be looking at an increase of taxes of 9% as well as a hike in the sewer.
Correct.
Okay.
In sewer, we would have had the 10% just as a matter of course.
Right. It would be
You're looking,
At
because
12.
of this transition, you're looking at an additional 5?
I'm looking at additional
And so
5.
So 15,
15% unless the board decides they want to go another way, take from fund balance. But honestly, I think you need to establish the revenue up instead of taking from fund balance, because then you're only looking at pushing the problem down another year, if that makes any sense.
And I wouldn't use the 15% as a number to talk about. It's more because 15% sounds awful, whereas
It does.
we're talking about $20, right? 20, 50.
Correct.
Yeah, the average.
Yeah. It's,
So
that's the hardest thing with
talk about a $20 increase, not a.
when you give numbers to people, because
Yeah.
the percentage can look extravagant, but yet it's a few dollars. It's
Yeah.
nothing substantial. But
Mhm.
And this is to correct something that's.
really, it is a corrective measure.
And to properly, yeah.
Allocate.
Yeah.
It's a proper allocation of the
Yeah.
expenses.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, Justin.
I see this as a positive step in terms of making sure that the sewer fund is self-sustaining, and I
Mhm.
realize this is the first pass of your impression on this. So overall, if I can take a quick step back, the comptroller's report, what was it, 2017 or something?
Mhm.
They basically said that we appropriated too much in sewer without it being structured, right? So there wasn't enough reserve, there was too big of a piggy bank there, right?
Mhm.
So we corrected that by setting aside some in reserves.
Yep.
And this is a further correction by allocating costs where charges are due. I think that's a good thing. I guess my concern is with the 22% as we drill down into certain items. I really want to make sure that we're not going overboard, especially if you look at some kind of edge cases like Wood Creek, where they aren't a part of the village boundary, right? They don't benefit from a lot of our municipal services. It's really just sewer. So for, and this is kind of a case study or a kind of a way of thinking about whether or not we're doing this correctly. We've got 22%, so you can round up and say 1 out of 4 windows, or a quarter of our window value is sewer attributed.
Mhm.
I don't know what the quality or standard of windows is for proper sewer operations, I guess, and I guess following this down, the same line of logic, so we've got $3,300, the 22% of the appropriations for software support is $3,300.
Yep.
So what is $3,300 worth of software support for the sewers?
That's fully their program. They have one program that we pay totally their software thing, plus the accounting program, plus computers, printers. It's not, you can't, and the reason you go with a percentage and sit there and analyze each individual item, it's just easier that way. You have to have a thing, and the basis of doing that is finding something to value. The best thing to value is off your average of your salaries. It's a given. So that is why it was recommended by the comptroller as well as their accountant, because it establishes a hardy percentage. Wood Creek is part of the sewer, so that's one of the reasons why this has to be done this way. You have outside residents that aren't village residents that have to be accountable for the sewer charge. It's based off the tax basis. So that's why you want to use something like salaries, a hard number to get to your percentage. Now, if we were looking at something like a building and there was a specific need, I'm going to use DPW. bathrooms, they need showers, they need certain things.
They need
Those
laundry.
showers, the really reason they need showers is because of sewer
And laundry.
and laundry. So that impact is more for sewer because it's probably 75%. So some things you have to analyze a little different, but when it comes down to your basis of everyday items, you need a percentage.
And so, oh, go ahead, Dan.
Can
That's
we,
okay.
can I just time out for a minute?
Yeah.
Do we need
I was
Jeff?
just going to say,
Are we doing culvert?
just a
We
real,
need 22% of the schools.
we need 22% of this time, that's right, yeah. We already kind of quickly covered some code items and we're good.
But you had some items you wanted.
Did you want to bring up anything?
I do, but it doesn't have to be at this meeting.
And we have a hard stop in 17 minutes.
Is it a lot to cover? Where are you with this?
I'll just do an email.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
And thanks
Sorry
for-
you had to come all this way.
Yeah,
No problem.
thanks for coming by. Good to see
Almost
you.
on my way home.
Unless you want to chime in on the conversation I'm having right now with the breakout of the
Sure.
22% and the
Is there some
tax
doubt?
basis.
There's some
Probably.
question, trustee Lightgib was asking if we need to drill down to a few of the items to maybe make them less or more, is what you're asking, correct?
Exactly. I'd love to see something between what Brooklyn did with the postage, which to me sounds like the most correct way, when possible, of saying, hey, this is what the mailings for the sewer actually cost. And I think that's awesome. That's hard work to, to drill that down. But then the 22% seems to be, yeah, I understand how conceptually there's a percentage that's allocated, but I feel like if we're going this way and something that is more of a permanent change, I'd either like to start smaller with a standard number or go down and say, okay, this is 20%, this is 10%, so that we're not overbilling and perhaps underbilling, as you said, for some of the DPW
I think you've done
stuff.
that in some of the more significant instances
Correct.
on the sheet, but I think on the next round, if there's updates, that you break out those percentages so we can all see, because I
Yeah.
agree with you, I think that's helpful,
I
because you
think-
did that before on the other sheet, I know that.
I mean, we do
But-
know how much time you spend.
Yeah.
Well, that's still in-
Which is one of the reasons we went to an online billing system too, to kind of help with some of that, if I don't know how many people are going to be using that, but.
The online payments, oh,
Yeah.
it's significant.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah, and honestly,
But we do have a good idea of how much time you spend processing those bills. and-
Just hold on.
Yep.
Actually, the past 2 months, I've probably been 95% sewer.
Easily.
From issuing the bills to accepting them, so.
but
I mean, my take on it is that the controller will accept anything that you have a pretty good justification for.
Mhm.
And where you can drill down and get an exact number,
You do it.
there can't be an argument.
Yeah.
But where you
Yeah.
can't really do that without spending a massive amount of people hours on it,
mhm.
then they just want to know that you thought about it and have some justifications in the file for that percentage.
And that's, just to circle back on this, that's where you had the conversations with the accountant, looking at best practices from the controller's office, which is how you came up with that 22, 25 kind of
Yeah.
percentage, that is something that you can stand by that.
Yes,
Okay, and then in the other places, okay, this is really and truly what we spend.
correct. If it's something that really significantly, like postage, is
Sure.
quantifiable,
Sure.
that was easy enough. But some of it is not, because the bills are just general, and it's too hard to break them all down.
Mhm.
It just really is. I mean, could I take a better look at the software support? Probably could do a little better, but I'm still going to end up using a percentage. That's
Sure.
why, at the end of the day,
But you're not so far off the rails.
No, I
with
am
it.
not off the
Okay,
rails.
just so we're all
Stand up to
understanding, it can withstand, exactly. It
Yeah.
can withstand, an audit, this is how we're looking at this, yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
And understand, this is the first year at this.
Yeah, that's
So
true, too.
22 comes in, so as these bills come in and we break the percentage, we might spend less
Mhm.
than we anticipated. It's like general, we never know, it's an estimate. And as things are charged off to sewer, it could be smaller take. This is just a overall look at the budget. So to drill that number down any further, or what to use to drill it, really the best number to me was salary,
yeah,
because that's the percentage basis of time spent.
Mhm.
You know, you look at my salary, 60% goes to general, 40% to sewer, and then I split it 50/50
Mhm.
between the departments, the two, treasurer and the clerk. So I know I spend over 40% on sewer, very easily,
Mhm.
between balancing and everything else, and looking at it, and looking on the, you know, so that's how you gather, and the total averages of everybody's use is 22%.
So I'm going to look at it another way, because what I think, the bottom line is, and we can close this out because I know we only have a few more minutes, we're really looking finally, for the first time, at departments that have always been combined. We've only looked at it as sort of one giant lump. And now, for the first time, we're looking at two separate kind of departments
Correct.
or entities.
Mhm.
And as we go along, we'll tweak, we can refine, we'll
Mhm.
see where we can do better. This is our first wave of actually finally looking at all of this in pink.
Correct.
You know?
It really is.
Yeah.
You know, I can take a look at some of the numbers, but, you know, I have no problem trying to see if I can drill them down a little more.
Mhm.
But honestly, I don't see a lot of those numbers being able to be changed too much, if anything.
Yeah, and then
I
as,
mean, because you might win in one number and lose in another number. Like you said, one line might be charging too much to sewer, but then this other line's short. So it kind of offsets. That's a great thing with the budget. And to be honest, the way you transfer and you move the money around to help the whole overall budget, because you don't want to overspend each line.
sure. So in a way, it could potentially
It could
net
balance.
out.
It'll balance.
Okay.
Yeah,
It'll
so
balance.
having the percentage on there would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can throw the
Yeah, I think
percentages
that's
on, and
helpful.
anything that was 100% dictated sewer
Yep.
allocation.
Like
That's
you
fine.
mentioned the showers or something.
Right, well, that's not in.
It's not in there yet, but.
Not yet.
But
We do
when
the
you
work,
get to
yeah.
something like that, and we look at a project like that, that's where we make that determination.
Right.
Yeah, the reason why we got to put a whole shower section in is
Right.
because, you know, the guy's going home with sewer on.
Right.
I mean, it's really truthfully how you got to look at it
Yeah.
with some things. That's a bigger picture.
Mhm.
These are everyday expenses.
Mhm.
So I guess instruction from the board to further out. I'll put the percentages in. What else would you like to see sewer? Do you want me to stick with the breakout with taking something from fund balance to 15%? How do you want to play it?
I think we should look at that. I do, because I think frankly, we've always done that. But I mean, and we'd actually be looking at much less from fund balance than in the past, if I'm correct, and still.
Well, for sewer, yeah, well, for this year, it would be much less than the last 2 years we were
Sure.
going to take, and then we never even took it.
Right.
We've never taken.
But, and then maybe as another action item, when you pull all of that out, let's take a look at where we are with our percentage. You know, you said 20%, you feel better than 10 to 15.
Correct, I think at
As a
some
policy.
point, if the village, we reduce that percentage to keep the village maintaining somewhat of a fund balance.
Yeah,
But I think there's a difference between maintaining a fund balance and a healthy fund balance
Right.
to cover an emergency or something. You know, saying 70,000, I'm just using a larger number, and
sure.
sewer is enough in fund balance, I don't agree with that. I think having 100, 150 of free money is a good thing.
So how about if you break that out for the board, so we
Sure.
can see that the next time? I think that'd be helpful, you
Yep.
guys, right?
Okay. So everybody wants me to leave sewer as is and just put some minor stuff in. Okay. So general,
Keep the pink too.
keep the pink, and I'll remove it
Yeah.
from the areas that shouldn't have been pink. I just love pink.
So where do you want to go?
Let's go to general. We can take a quick look at general. I know we have a hard
We're
stop.
10 minutes out from parts.
We're good with me? Saying,
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
somebody gonna tell me what the code change, what happened in code?
Yeah,
We're researching a lot.
it's mostly research and action. I'll give you a buzz tomorrow. Okay, thanks so much,
Have a good
Jeff.
night.
Yeah, you should.
You as well.
Well,
So Justin, you have been, I passed the information on. You see on the general, I have the sewer splits.
Yep.
Okay.
So now that's just to clarify, my understanding where the total appropriation for an item would be then the 2023-24 tentative column plus the sewer split column
Correct.
would be the overall.
That would be the over anticipated line. That's why you'll see in some lines it's reduced from previous budgeted lines because we offset to the sewer fund for its appropriate
Right.
portion of it.
Gotcha.
Some lines had to increase overall because of impacts with
Yeah.
expenses we just can't control, like Insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. In this line, anything that's yellow, I'm looking to remove.
Yeah,
Anything that's pink is new. I will have a printed budget out of the computer system. I got all the new lines in, and then I had to revamp everything when I started looking at sewer. So it impacted the numbers the board received before. The bottom line is, in this general, it's about 9%. I increased the 3 items I was given to increase from the last budget. I took Hudson up to 10,000 for next year's, and it matched this. I took the Arboretum and I took that to 10,000 from 6, and I took the mayor's salary and I took it to 25,000. So those are the 3 changes I was.
16-ish? From 16-ish?
15?
15?
15, what is,
I-
I don't remember.
16-ish.
Yeah, 15, 16, yeah. 10,000 seemed to be a magic number for me.
Okay.
So without, I
Step in
mean,
the right direction.
it's what was requested from the last budget meeting, so any
How about
changes.
this? How about by the next election, it's up at 50? So do a step up to 50.
If I'm here, we'll think about it.
Okay.
Say the date again. Are we talking about a date?
No, we haven't talked about date, we need to talk a date, because although we're not meeting till, supposed to meet till the 13th, I think we need a meeting in between. Because of the sewer changes on the general impact, and I want to really make sure everybody's comfortable, because I want to finalize these, to get them to the paper for whatever. That doesn't mean these numbers are finished,
Mhm.
it means we just have a tentative budget.
Yep.
So is there anything sewer-wise? I know you haven't had time to review it, that's why I think you really need to schedule another meeting, because I really wanted to touch on sewer today and
Sure.
not general.
Well, there's a lot of moving parts now with sewer. I mean, we're really kind of
Well-
seeing that picture.
Sewer has such a direct impact
Yeah.
into general now that it didn't have.
Right, exactly. Because it was just lumped in. So do we want to come up with a date?
We can, and I think just seems to.
Yeah, if we're focusing on sewer, I guess what I would like to see, so we're going to have the number, the total number for the percentage on each column.
Yep.
If we want to even make it easier and have the appropriation amount auto-calculated based on the percentage of the appropriation sheet, I can give you a formula for that if you want.
Sure. I'm pretty good with Excel,
Yeah.
but going across
Just to
sheets.
make things easier. And I guess if there are comments about why that number is justified for particular items, that would be useful for me too. If you talk to the comptroller about, why the 22.5%. Some of them it's pretty intuitive, other ones it isn't for me at least. And I think that, to have our own understanding clear, if the comptroller does come back, we can say, well, not only did we discuss it, this is what we discussed and that was our rationale.
Yeah, no,
Sure.
we have, we covered,
That sounds good.
yeah, I'll go back and pull comments we had from our accountant and everybody. And we had correspondence from the comptrollers as well.
And that'll become part of the narrative. We always do a narrative of the budget. That'll become
I was
part
going to
of
say,
it.
when that's the presentation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'll be the narrative.
yeah, I mean, we won't call it a parasite. We'll call
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I think
it's
we better-
properly funded. Proper
Thank you.
allocation.
And we won't ever again use the phrase steal from the general fund.
Yeah.
Don't use
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we're not stealing.
I know
No,
what you meant.
We're properly allocated.
Proper
Properly
allocation,
allocated.
no.
Thank you so much.
okay.
Indeed.
So take a look at this, let's look at dates, because I know we wanted to do
Yeah.
a hard stop.
This is for the presentation that you're talking about?
No, I'm talking
Next
another
meeting?
budget meeting to go over general.
Just to make sure we're
I want to
really
make general.
in sync.
I'll get you new sewer sheets with those breakouts done. I would have liked to have had everything to you earlier, but it's been crazy. Try burning the building down and find time. I know the 6th is gone because they're having an HPB meeting at 5:30. We could meet at 4 if you want to
I will
stick
not
with the
be
Monday.
here on the 6th.
So what about the 7th?
Which date is this, the 7th of
March.
March
It'd
7th.
be March 7th, next Tuesday.
Is that available for
4
everybody?
o'clock.
Yeah, at 4. Does that work?
Does that work?
I'm out of town next week, but I don't mind, if I can review things.
Okay, you can get back if you need,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. I just would like to get another meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd rather.
We need to keep moving forward.
Because then we've got the 21st, yeah.
And then by March,
Meeting with the.
by our March 13th meeting, I'd like to have an adopted tentative if possible.
Yeah, I think we're close. I think we just really,
Yep,
You know,
and
just
I'll
say
try
we
to
need to
have actual computer generated from the program to break it out for you with the new lines.
So on the 13th, you're anticipating the vote.
I'm anticipating
tentative.
just a tentative. Everybody's good, give me the vote for the tentative so I can get it to the paper in time to
just
set the public
put the
hearing.
notice in the paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will be discussing it on the 13th with a vote at the end of that.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so the vote, the 13th is not a meeting, you're saying?
It's a budget
It
meeting.
is, okay, we're sticking, okay.
It's a budget meeting.
Gotcha.
I would like to wrap
That's
it.
the vote.
I'd like to wrap it enough that we're comfortable with tentative.
Okay.
We can obviously can keep meeting. We have the budget. We usually do the budget hearing the first meeting of April for the village
Yeah.
board and hold the adoption the last meeting to give time if there's any real changes the board wants to make after that point.
And then that's at 4 as well, on the
One
13th?
on the-
Yes,
Okay,
that's
just
it.
so
Okay.
just making sure. Okay,
Okay? Any other questions, concerns?
well, we're just about at hard stop here, so,
I just have one from the public before, it's going back to the code review. Art Pierce was wondering, are or will the proposed changes be on the website for public view from Art Pierce?
Any code changes will be in the form of a local law, so the local law will be made public.
yeah, I mean, our attorney will write up the changes. Yeah,
Yep.
that's how it works, that's the process. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call, please.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Keating.
Aye.
Trustee Stetser.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for all your good work. This is,
Yeah.
and you too, Brooklyn. I mean, you guys have really been chipping away.